Alright. Basically, I want to talk about why the Vulture is probably my personal favorite Spider-Man villain. Um, I think a lot of people might not really understand this, because I guess everyone's more familiar with like the iconic Spider-Man villains like Green Goblin and Venom and Doc Ock, the big three, the top three usually. And they're all great villains. I like them all. But the reason I guess I like the Vulture so much, I don't know if I really have a specific reason. It's just one of those things that you really like something, maybe because it has something to do with you personally, subconsciously. There's just something about that particular thing that you really like. But yeah, I really like the Vulture. He's like one of my favorite Spider-Man villains. He's probably my personal favorite. I don't think he's the absolute best one, like from a more critical point of view, but I do believe that, he is my personal favorite. Well, I think the biggest thing is he's one of Spider-Man's oldest foes, and he's possibly his most persistent one. I mean, the Vulture's always there. The Vulture's always doing something in the background. He's trying to rob an armored truck. He's terrorizing people. And of course he always gets his ass kicked and handed to him and get put back in jail every week. But he's always back again. And I mean, there's just something about this idea of this really old man. He's like in his 70s or early 80s. This old man, this bitter, cold old man who, basically just has the ability to fly. Though he does get, like, I think it enhances his strength, and it's like there's armor in the suit, so it prevents him from like getting injured from bullets, and I think small cannon fire even. Plus he's got cool blades on the ends of his wings so that like he could slash at you, and they're sharp enough they could slash through steel, and I think that in some versions they can even shoot at you like missiles. So, I mean, the Vulture's not quite as lame as I think some people might consider him to be, though I do understand that based on the original version of his costume, people might assume that, he is kind of lame. But he's had some more updates, and there's also been some significant storylines that he's been a part of that have actually shown that he is a fairly dangerous character in his own right, a fairly dangerous villain, which I think is something that's often overlooked. Well, okay, we got some time. In particular, I think the biggest one that stands out is the whole time when he had cancer, and he had this device he used which could temporarily steal the life force out of someone. And that was a storyline that they adapted for the animated series, in which he used this on Peter Parker and took away his youth and temporarily became young. That was actually a pretty significant storyline. I'm not exactly sure when it was written, but it was back in the day. 70s or 80s maybe. I think one of the coolest storylines he was involved in was this whole plot, which Harry Osborn from the grave tricked Spider-Man into believing that his parents were still alive and had created these robot duplicates. And after Spider-Man, Peter Parker, had gotten to have a better relationship with these fake parents and had grown closer to them, they turn on him, but he still feels for the mother robot. But the Vulture, sadistically, sucks the energy from her to become even more powerful, and in fact killing her or destroying her, which is kind of really emotionally damaging for Peter Parker, as he never really knew his parents very well, and that was kind of a stab in the face to him. I always thought that was kind of a significant little point. Also, he's become something of a kind of a leader in his own right. Like, he manipulated other villains to go after some sort of like identity disc or something. I didn't actually read the storyline, to be honest, but I looked at the plot synopsis and I think I'm going to check it out. But I thought it was pretty cool that he was able to manipulate other villains like Bullseye and the Juggernaut into his own plans. I mean, he was the mastermind behind the storyline, which seemed pretty cool. Maybe I'll look into it and I'll have a better idea, but I'm glad that they're using the Vulture for bigger things now. He's also been a member of the Sinister Six, and he is one of the constant members of the Sinister Six. I think he and Electro, who have an interesting relationship, by the way, they are the most consistent members of the Sinister Six. So I don't know what that means, but basically, other than that, I guess the reason I personally like the character is, like I said, he's an old man he's an old man, but he is so driven by the desire for vengeance against a world that he thinks is basically treated him unjustly, that he just doesn't care anymore, and he goes around doing what he wants, taking what he wants, hurting people. He's just kind of like the negative result of a bad life. And there's just something about that I think is very powerful and makes him a very interesting villain. He's also not a completely unsympathetic character. At one point, he attacks Spider-Man after he revealed his identity or something, after the whole Civil War thing, and he actually proclaimed that he had hated Spider-Man for interrupting all his crimes because one reason he was committing these crimes was to gather money for like his daughter or his niece or his granddaughter or something, which of course Spider-Man used to blame on himself, like, oh God, it's my fault, maybe I shouldn't have been so harsh or something, something ridiculous like that. But I just thought it was kind of interesting that it gave him more depth, and there are a couple other storylines that are significant, but yeah, I know it might not make sense, but the Vulture is one of my favorite Spider-Man villains. He's probably my personal favorite, and if I had to have him in a top 10 list, he would definitely be on there. Maybe not at the highest point, but he'd definitely be on it. I couldn't see myself putting a top 10 list of Spider-Man villains without him being on it. So yeah, I love Adrian Toomes, aka the Vulture. Yep, and I'm actually kind of disappointed that he wouldn't have been in Spider-Man 4 because John Malkovich would have been portraying him, and John Malkovich is an exceptional actor, so I don't know if it would have been a terrible movie or not. Maybe it's a good thing it didn't happen. Maybe it would have ruined the character, but I don't know. Anyway, whatever. That's that.